No. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to what is episode 12 of our Malt Travail podcast. We have a very fantastic start to this week's podcast in that we're going to have some proper culture from Yorkshire, and we're going to ask Sophie Hope, who's up-and-coming talent in York, and she's going to launch her next record with us live. It's fantastic. It's like being on top of the pop or something. So we're going to hand over Sophie, and she's going to play one of her new tunes, which I understand will be available very soon, and we'll post details on our various websites and etc. And we'll also promote Sophie's Facebook page as well. So without further ado, in the lovely York sunshine, by the looks of it, in Bruce and Christine's back garden, we will pass over to Sophie. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. So I will say this is my first live performance. I feel a little bit nervous, but I'm sure it'll be all right. I'm not an amazing guitar player, so just spare me a bit of credit kind of thing. But so this is my single, Humour. This is the acoustic version, but it is being produced properly. So it should be out soon. So this is a debut of the debut. I've not done any live performances because it's been through COVID. Hopefully I can get it right on this podcast. Summer breeze cover me, release me from the shadow, show the blue of the sea. Notably, I see things differently. Thought it wouldn't matter, thought you knew how I'd be. Humour me, fall asleep. Humour me, fall asleep. Tomorrow's different, then I'll leave. Frightening how strong I am, but maybe that was part of the plan. Standing tall, I'll make my own way. Braver I'll be day by day. Usually happy to agree. Now I'll be me. Happier now that I surround myself with friends and laughter, not your arms around me. For all of its impossibility, learned so much from error, taught me I can be free. And finally I can see the tops of the trees. Better now, I'm not swinging in a trapeze. And you and me fall asleep. Tomorrow's different, and then I'll leave. And frightening how strong I am, but maybe that was part of the plan. Oops. Standing tall, I'll make my own way. Braver I'll be day by day. And usually happy to agree, but now I'll be me. Summer breeze cover me. Finally I trust what I'll be. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sophie. That was fantastic.
Well done.
A bit rusty there because I was a bit shaky, but I feel like I got into it a bit more in the second half.
Oh, that was great. No, that was really nice, actually. And certainly for drinking beer too, it was a great song. I've certainly enjoyed drinking my beer in the summer. It was great. And we hope that we'll be able to see you performing in lots and lots of pubs and bars around York very soon. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully with a guitar player that can be a bit better next to me because I'm on that side. But yeah,
that's pretty good.
I expected to see the neighbours peeping over the wall there.
Yeah, I have got a bit of an audience.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's fantastic, Sophie. So as we said, we'll make sure everybody hears when you are going to release that. But it's a lovely start to our summer podcast season because we had a bit of a break, so it's really nice. Good stuff. All right, cheers.
It was really good. That was excellent. Oh.
Okay, so let me share the screen again. So that was a nice start to the podcast, wasn't it, folks? A bit different.
Excellent.
Really good. Yeah, really good.
It'll all be downhill from now on.
Yeah, probably. So we are back with us. We've had a little bit of break over Easter, which is very nice, and it also tied in with the pubs reopening, and I'm sure we'll be able to talk a little bit about that as well. Bruce has been on his merry way this afternoon, flying around York, taking pictures, and he started sending me all the pictures at about 5 o'clock. Bruce being well prepared, and again, as always, when I got to about pub 27, I said, Bruce, we can't do this in the next hour and a half. So I think, again, what we're going to do is we're going to spread this over 2 weeks. So we'll do part two this week, and then part 2B next week. As we've said before, the myth is that York has got 365 pubs. And by the looks of Bruce's iPhone, he's been to most of them in the last 48 hours. And even had some free beers today as well. So he's well on the thing. So what we're going to do today is we're going to carry on. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we did kind of the south part of York, kind of coming out of the station and picking up the maltings and then doing kind of that side. The plan is we're going to start looking at the north, what I've called the north, and I guess the east of the river. So we will do that this afternoon. So Bruce will be in the chair. It's the 22nd of April today. This month seems to have absolutely flown past, doesn't it? And so we're heading towards May. As we mentioned, we've passed one milestone, which was last Monday when many pubs reopened. And thankfully, I think a few of them have had a really good week. I mentioned Mellard's, which was one of my locals, which Hope I'm going tomorrow. They actually ran out of beer on Saturday night, so I didn't get to go. So I had a few beers up in Yorkshire, but when I got back home, I couldn't go because they ran out of beer. So they said it'd been fantastic. Everybody had I think they had 9 beers on, and they sold out by Saturday night. So I'm hearing that quite a lot of places as well. Now I know that's because they didn't maybe buy as much in because they weren't quite sure, but it's been a good week weather-wise as well, hasn't it? So
I think the Fox Nero's are past about 300 with all the tables outside, and there's people queuing to get in. So I've shifted the mail down there. And also, I'll say I went around town tonight after work and down that Stonegate quarter and anywhere and get a table outside. Every chair was taken, so it's good to see, really.
Good to see. And obviously we had next milestone's May 17th, isn't it, when potentially we met.
When you see the photographs down in Soho in London, when those tables, they literally sat shoulder to shoulder. So once again, it's good to see, and it's good for the pubs. But in terms of social distancing and doing it by the letter of law, they're on the doorstep of the government.
Well, if you look at that picture that Bruce has sent me tonight, the back of the Lamb and Lion, which I think that's right, it's a fantastic picture of the Minster there. But that's an outdoor pub garden. But if you look closely, people there they're on their separate tables, but they're bloody close together, aren't they? I would argue a lot of those people are not 2 meters apart. So again, I can't understand why you can't sit inside the Lamb and Lion, have a beer. On a similar thing, just to be sure. Anyway, we'll come back to that. We'll come on to that. So our beery highlights of the last week, obviously, have been having our first proper pints of 2021. So unfortunately, we didn't quite all three of us get together. So I mentioned that I'd spent a couple of days up in Whitby, and certainly we met up with Nick and his better half, Jackie, for one, which is a nice evening on the picture there, Nick, but it was bloody cold, wasn't it, by about 8 o'clock?
No, I was all right, and bloke in T-shirt next to me was all right, but everybody else with hats and scarves and puffer jackets on and paddy jackets. You could tell they weren't from Yorkshire, Bruce, put it that way, mate.
So that's me and Nick. We're in the Abbey Wharf in Whitby, and Bruce, I think you got one in before us. Actually, I think you got that one in on. Did you get that one on Monday or Tuesday? Was it
the Shambles Tavern? That's they've got a little patio that backs to the market in York. And actually, they've got some gas heaters there as well. So it was great.
All right. So that was our. In fact, I cheated slightly because I'd won the day before, actually, because I went up to Whitby the day early, and that's my picture outside the Whitby Brewery, which I mentioned was up on the cliff there. Again, they've done quite a nice little refit to their little courtyard, which again was very nice. Actually, at a certain time in the afternoon, it was a bit of a sun trap, and that was pretty busy. In fact, we queued 40 minutes on the first day we went up there, and the second day I think we queued for about 15-20 minutes. And pretty much, I'm looking at the list that I think we pretty much tried all those beers, and Nick, you came. You were driving, weren't you, one day?
I was
so
driving.
You just had to have a quick blonde, but
Just
I managed a blonde, a whaler, a gold, an IPA, a Saltwick Nab, and I think the IPA was my choice of beer that week, which is really, really good. So that was that one, and I just came across this week. Obviously, it's kind of end of the, well, not it's the end of the year, it's the start of the financial year, isn't it? So one or two financial reports have been done, and again, just really the importance of this Localists, who are a kind of research group. They've done a report that said that pubs support over 885,000 jobs in the UK. So what's that? Nearly 1 million jobs that are tied to the pub trade. And they in a normal year would pay out that's a massive figure, £12 billion in wages. Pubs in the UK pay out, and they contribute 23.4 billion to the general value added funding of the UK. So, really important. And, as we've said week in, week out, they've had a terrible time, really. I was listening back to a podcast actually today, the Opinions guys that they did in December with a guy from Belgium. And, even then they were talking about pubs going to the wall, and that was in December, thinking about a February opening, and obviously we've had to wait until April. And as the quote there from the research says, pubs are not just about economy, they're about community and about kind of the society bit out there as well, which is really important. So that was interesting. And then just to kind of update this then again and pick this up today, again, CJA or another kind of Insights or another kind of research group, and they had done some public surveying, and they reckon they're projecting that 44% of adults have been to a pub in the last week, and 9% point rise in the first 10 days compared to July.
That seems high.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, but I don't know.
There aren't a lot of pubs open. I mean, in Whitby, there was only 3 places open that we could find. So
I think that depends, Nick, on where you are. I think certainly I was asking at work today, everybody at work's been to a pub. In fact, more than one pub. And I think with the weather's being so nice, some people going out every bloody night almost.
Well, yeah.
And like Bruce says, certainly in the towns and the cities, and they are every spare space. They are even Weatherspoons in Stoke is putting tables on the pavement, and there isn't any. They haven't got any pub garden, but apparently they're going to open this weekend. So what are we drinking tonight, guys? Bruce, I see you're on beer. You're finally on beer after 4 months.
I'll start retirement tonight.
Mass-produced dishwater nowadays, Bruce.
Yeah, it is brewed by Molson
Coast. No longer independent.
I've a stock of beer from Christmas that, of course, has been untouched now for months. So I'm trying to drink it to beat my date.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick? What are you on tonight?
Right. Well, I brought you a present when I came to see you in Whitby, didn't I?
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got one of those myself. I've gone for the can one tonight, actually.
Ah, well, so that would be interesting. Yeah, because
right.
I walked up once every month in Malton. They have they call it a farmers' food festival or a farmers' market. So I've been up a month back and seen the Great Yorkshire Pudding van was up there, but I didn't have time to go on the market. So I thought, right, fortnight ago it was on again. I'll have a walk up and see if Howard was on his stall, and he was. So decided to buy two bottles and 2 cans. And when I asked him what the difference was, he said it's just people's personal preference.
Yeah.
So what we should really do is try the bottle and the can together and see if we can taste the difference. Because, there's a massive upsurge in putting beer in cans about 2 or 3 years ago. And they reckon that actually it keeps better in a can because it's not affected by the light. Even on a dark glass-coloured bottle, the light can affect the beer. So it would be quite an interesting thing to try the can compared to the bottle.
So have you cracked the bottle?
Yeah, I've got the bottle now. Yeah, which is very nice. It's a dry beer, very refreshing. You see the colour of it. Howard reckons there's 1/4 of a Yorkshire pudding in each bottle, and in fact, I've just noticed as well on the top of the bottle lid. I don't know if you can see that, but hang on.
Yeah, got it.
There's a little Yorkshire pudding. So like Crompton have made their bottle caps look like flat caps. Yeah. It seems that they've put a little Yorkshire pudding on the top of there. So so I've got that one. So I might crack the can after I've had this one.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got my can in reserve as well. Yeah.
I've got a bottle of Yorkshire Terrier and actually found it with the old branding, the old label on. Mm-hmm. So that's there won't be many of those around nowadays, I don't think, because obviously we talked about they've rebranded.
The new branding, yeah.
gone a bit more trendy and a bit more.
And again, the guys that are doing the A to Z Beer Chronicles, which again based in York, and also do Time for a Brew, they're going A to Z, and they were doing Y, and they're doing York this week actually. And they talk quite a lot about York Brewery, and I think there are plans, Bruce, out that they may come back to York at some point in the near future.
Yeah,
really.
it's a bit sketchy in the paper. I really hope so, because it's sad seeing that site. It's a great location, and there's a huge development now being built near it, and it'd be like a local for them. It's not.
But as you say, Bruce, if it's the landlord and the rent, they're not going to go back there, are they? They'll try and find another unit somewhere.
That's right.
So just a little shout out for Whitby, because when I was up there, as Nick mentioned, there weren't actually that many pubs open in Whitby, unfortunately. One of the hotels and the brewery and Wetherspoons. So thankfully, the Green Dragon Bottle Shop, which is down a lovely little lane, which is just off the swing bridge.
Great lane.
Shop. They do have a little grape lane. That's it. They do have a little tap as well, which unfortunately wasn't open. But they were doing, I think, the 3 drafts on. They do a draft that you can take away as well. So that was my regular horn. I popped in there every day, I think, while I was up there. And got some quite interesting beers as well. Great. Again, it was always great service. In fact, I ended up getting some free beer because I finished off the barrel of some Tiny Rebel tropical IPA, which was very nice of the owner to let me have that as well. So that was good. So, and one thing I did pick up there actually was a bottle of this Tint Meadow. I don't know if you pair have come across this. So this is now the first and only Trappist ale that is now being brewed in England. And of course, to be Trappist, it has to be brewed almost entirely by monks and within a monastery. So there is a monastery in Leicestershire called St. Bernard's. They used to get most of their wealth, or not wealth, but take over from a dairy herd, but that just got to a point, as we've heard, with milk, etc. It wasn't making any money, so they sold all the cows off. And they decided what they would do is they replaced the dairy with a brewery. So about 3 years ago, they started to build a new brewery. They managed to get some of the other monasteries from across in Europe to come across and support them, and a brewing consultant, I think, from Holland. And they are now pushing out this thing called Tint Meadow, which is a English Trappist ale. So I've got a couple of bottles. It's 7%. I was going to have one tonight, but I thought, you know what, I'll save it, as it's 7.6%. If you're interested, if you manage to get onto BBC iPlayer, there is a program called Brotherhood, and it tells you the story of the monks and how they are getting ready for it. It's a bit sad, really, because the monastery now there's only about, 20 monks, and they're all in their 80s and 90s. In fact, during the program, three or four of them actually die, unfortunately, through a documentary. And the youngest guy is the abbot, and he's about probably in his mid-40s. So, there's a concern that a lot of the monasteries are going to fall off. But anyway, that'll be interesting. So I might. And well, in fact, I bought the last bottle because she'd sold out, she said. So that was interesting. Maybe that in the TV documentary.
Is that a 500 milliliter?
It's a bit like that bottle you've got with the Yorkshire pudding beer, and I think, it's not a massive one.
375, right?
Not a massive one. And then again, we're at first, because if you remember, what was it? 3 weeks ago, we had Kieran on, Bruce's nephew from the Yorkshire Railway, and he kind of gave us a little bit of a hint that he'd been working with some very high-powered Hollywood stars, and of course now it's all come out that Tom Cruise is filming another Mission Impossible, which involves running across steam trains. I understand, Bruce. It's Kieran's having a interesting time with our Hollywood moguls.
Yes, he was in Tom Cruise looking for a ride his helicopter on Tuesday. He wanted to suss out some sights from above. Yeah,
very nice. Yeah.
Was it a red and yellow one, Bruce? Because he circled around us a couple of times. I was waving at it.
I don't know anything about that, but yeah, he's. I think it's been an experience to see the money involved being quite astonishing, I believe, and obviously I think Kieran mentioned, I think for the railway it's a great time, because they've had a really tough time. I know they've had crowdfunding and stuff, but they've not really been to operate properly now for over 12 months. So I guess it's bringing some good money. But again, another exclusive. So we've had our music exclusive tonight, and we had our Hollywood exclusive 3 weeks ago when Kieran told us that potentially the Yorkshire Moors Railway was going to feature in a Hollywood blockbuster, which it will be. In those Mission Impossible films are massive films, aren't they? I mean, they'll go global. So that's pretty interesting as well. And then just quick, I did mention this the other week. In fact, I've got to do it because, unfortunately, with the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh's funeral on Saturday, the camera AGM was kind of postponed for a day. So they had to start on the Saturday. So they quickly opened up at 9:30 and then closed it down
and then rescheduled everything for Sunday. So the Sheffield beer tasting, which I was really looking forward to, then was rescheduled to 6 o'clock on Sunday. So I did watch it, and it was really interesting to listen to the various breweries. But with it being a school night and work next morning, and I've got to leave work, I've got to leave here for 6:30 and drive up 50 miles on the motorway. So I didn't really want a skin full of beer. So I'm saving that, and they've actually sent me the recording today. So I'm going to probably do that on Saturday. Really interesting, really. Interested about the Farmer's Belgian Blue, and again, I know Nick, we mentioned the Bradfield Brewery a couple of times, and they were very coy. They said there's a secret ingredient in that Belgian Blue that he wouldn't tell anybody what it is. It's a blue fruit, and he wouldn't tell us. And I think it's going to be bilberry, because that's the only thing I can think. He just wouldn't. He was quite the brewery guy was nope, not telling you. And that was apparently, it was just a Christmas brew that they did a couple of years ago, but it's just gone bonkers over a pandemic.
It's got to be bilberry, because bilberry stains like bilberry, doesn't it?
Yeah, and quite unique to that area, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't need much in for it to have an effect to colour the beer.
They do a blueberry beer. They do a blueberry beer anyway as a special, more of a summer one. So
blueberries don't stain like bilberries.
No, so maybe I'll
bilberry.
And it has got a purple head, hasn't it? When you think about it, when you pour that beer,
yeah, it has
got a purple head on it.
Blue tinge to it.
Blue tinge, yeah. So anyway, I'll come back to that next week. And then just last thing, we spent a lot of time talking about Yorkshire. I think Nick, you put me onto these, but I came across the Yorkshire Beer Bible, and I did buy the second edition. And just really, for those of you that are interested, or you maybe hopefully the podcast is getting you thinking about beers, these are great little books. There's 2 editions actually. Again, being a cheapskate, I've got them both for, I think I paid £2 for one and £2. And again, this was £2, and it's second hand. It's absolutely bright. It's never been used. That's on Amazon when you look for the, it's Amazon, but it's a secondhand book company that are doing them. And they're really fantastic books. You mentioned that the first one, I think you've got, that actually does have pubs and doesn't it as well. The second one merely focuses on breweries. There's so many breweries now.
Yeah.
But that just is breweries.
First one, he covers some of the towns and cities. Simon Jenkins was the columnist for the Yorkshire Post for 20 odd years. He used to do their pub columns and stuff like that. So obviously he knows the territory very well. And I say in the first edition, probably because there weren't quite as many breweries, he's sort of like in sections through the book, he'll do a brewery, and then he'll pick up on that brewery's town. So he'll do Bradford, Leeds, Harrogate, places like that. I suppose what he's doing with the second one, because there's more breweries now, he didn't want to make it that much bigger. And also it's a bit like the camera guide, really. The problem is when you're putting a book together, by the time you've got it published and printed, it could be out of date in terms of the pubs that he's recommended. I mean, similar with the breweries, but hopefully you're not losing as many breweries as you've got pubs changing hands. Yeah. So I think that's probably why he's not put his sort of like little beer trips and beer crawls in his second edition. But yeah, very nice size and really colourful as well.
Yeah, so they're like A5 size, so they pocket size really.
Yeah,
you pocket, couldn't you?
Yeah, they are good book. Yeah.
If you, and again, in hindsight, if looking back, if you were following our podcast, these would be great little kind of companions, because they pretty much cover the breweries we talk about, and actually quite a lot of the pubs in edition 1 as well, with the 1 or 2 other ones that again we haven't talked about or we've missed. So again, just thought I'd just say that I'm looking through. Right, Bruce, we're gonna probably hand over to yourself then, and you're going to take us on the York Part 2 tour. So I guess you are starting kind of stationish, aren't you, again, because we always kind of start railway station, but you're turning left this time.
Yeah, where's the first pub on the list? I forgot the order I sent you into.
Well, before we get there, here we go. So, I just thought I'd throw this in. So if you meant, again, for those on YouTube, I've got a little map of York here, because last time we talked about York, we talked about the 4 bars, which are kind of on the edge of the thing. And obviously York is the city that's got the most intact medieval walls, hasn't it? And it's, I don't know, is it about 70%, isn't it, that's still there? As you can see there, the map, there are some gaps. So last time we did that little corner on the left-hand side, which was kind of Micklegate, Skeldergate, that kind of area there, Toff Green. And what we're going to do, and it's probably why there's so many more pubs, is that we're going to do that right-hand side, the north and the east of the river, which, again, actually brings the River Foss as well, which has got loads. And again, I don't know if you guys, I guess Bruce might know this. Do you know there is this weird thing about York, that you can still kill a Scotsman? It's still legal. They haven't, apparently we're going to change it in 2012, and for whatever reason, didn't get around to it. It's one of these laws that keeps getting put on when they kind of do a cleanup of laws. It kind of gets on the list, and then they leave it off. So by law, you can kill a Scotsman in York without any concern, as long as he's carrying a bow and arrow, and it's got to be a man, not a woman, and it's after dark. Because obviously, in the good old days, as Bruce mentioned last time, they shut the gates at dusk, and any Scotsman found in York after the gates had been shut was fair game. So if you're staggering out of Petervar or something, or York Tap, no, York Tap you'd be outside the walls in York Tap. So you're staggering out of Trembling Madness, and you meet a Scotsman. In fact, there's some nice shops across from Trembling Madness. They've got big swords, haven't they, and bits of armour. So that's that one there. So Bruce, I think you've got. Oh, hang on, sorry, this was right. Yeah. So Bruce sent me this last night. He was kind of starting to do his whizzing around the place to get some photos done. And Bruce, in fact, we've not had Bruce's food choice for a while, actually. He sent me a picture of, this is the Golden Horse Chinese takeaway, somewhere in deepest York. And again, for those that are not on the YouTube, Bruce's this is his WhatsApp comment. Whizzing about on bike, taking photos, past the Golden Horse. Look at this for a retro takeaway. The world's best curry sauce and chips, potato doorsteps covered in thick, spicy incredible, glued to the sauce. I do hope that on the train to Ilkley tomorrow has a working toilet. Otherwise, I might take my own blue roller back up. So what was the curry and chips like in the Golden Horse then, Bruce?
I mean, if you speak to people living in South Bank, it's pretty well known as the Golden Horse. The curry sauce is like a dark brown gravy. I think they make it themselves, which is a very rare Chinese takeaway. And you get like a sack of proper hand-cut potatoes. And, unfortunately, if you probably, I imagine, if you go to a house in Bishopthorpe Road, South Bank, someone comes down the stairs sweating profusely and people say, oh, you look like you've done a 10-mile run, and they'll just tap the side of the nose, Golden Horse, and everyone knows what they're talking about. Yeah.
So this would be, is this Golden Ball, White Swan neck of the woods, is it, down Bishy?
This is further up the road from that, into
right.
all the terrace houses in South Bank, quite near the racecourse, but of course you've got posh Bishy Road, then South Bank, where all the houses are all dense together, and there's little narrow alleys, and this is just a converted terrace house. It's a cracking place. They're really, really friendly as well. And I mean, just look at that sign, it's fantastic.
Is that the Chinese spelling of potato? Potato.
Potato. Right. So, Bruce, you've got then the Minster Inn down as your first one. So you would turn left at the station, wouldn't you?
So if you
cross over the river.
What you could actually do is you could find your way to platform 1 in York Railway Station, to the left of the York Tap, and go out through the car park. That's going through the car park towards your left-hand side. And we've made a fantastic construction now there, where it's all very level, and you come straight from the station, have a little platform, then you go up some steps. There's a new bridge an extended bridge over the river now, the Scarborough Railway Bridge. It's now got a prolonged extended footpath. It's really scenic. It's great. You can walk over there, drop down the stairs at the side of the river, and then you would just go take your first on your left, and you would be on Marygate. So Marygate's a cracking street, really authentic there. It's back to the side of the museum gardens. Really close to the river, you've got York's only Michelin-starred restaurant. That's Tommy Banks' restaurant, Roots. That used to be the Black Horse pub. Sadly, lost to the pub now, but I say it is now York's only Michelin-starred restaurant. Obviously, out of our price range. You'd keep walking up, and I say you'd come to the Minster Inn. Minster Inn's a cracking pub. It's got it's got 3 rooms in it. It's got rail fires in all of those rooms. Often in winter, they're all lit. It's got a bar with a serving hatch. It's got a fantastic courtyard outside. And today, as you see there, in the shadow of the wall, you can put some tables there across the road. It was a proper locals pub, the Minster Inn, but I was really welcoming. And then it got taken over by Marston's a few years ago. And everybody was worried. But to be fair, they've only done good things with it, really. Booming now. They do like oven fire pizza as well. But I say a great range of beers, mainly from the Marston. But if you were in the town centre, it was a bit lively. Say just head down Bootham. It's literally 2 minutes from Bootham Bar. Go down Marygate, and this is a really comfortable, welcoming pub, especially in winter, but fantastic courtyard for summer. So that definitely put that on your list. Yeah. Definitely one of the best 10 pubs in York, the Minster.
Yeah, that's one of my kind of top choices. I'm just looking there. I think they're that ale house and kitchen kind of brand of Marston's, exactly, because there's a lot, don't they, kind of group pubs together in obviously slightly different groupings, and I think these ones are quite traditional. So I think, like you say, they're kind of not tamper. Well, you wouldn't want to tamper with that pub too much, would you?
No, absolutely not.
I think last time we were in there, I think they have spent a bit refurbing it though as well, haven't they? I'm looking at the woodwork and the windows there.
Yeah.
They look like they've had a bit of an update.
Well, not to its detriment. I mean, it was looking possibly a shared tatty. I do believe it was a Cameron's house years ago, the Minster.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, I've always known it's an independent, but I thought it was independent. But
they've still got that classic thing where the toilets are basically outside in a lean-to, aren't they?
Yeah.
Go outside to go back in again. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And obviously, this is sometimes a bit of a football pub because obviously, well, it will be these days, but in the good old days when York were playing at Bootham Crescent, it's not quite the closest pub, but it's certainly one that we certainly went to when you're on your way, because there is another pub a bit further up in there as well that we've been in as well a couple of times. And then obviously you got quite a lot. The pubs on the Bootham Road are a bit more, a bit more lively, aren't they? More library focused.
The White Horse, traditionally where the away fans go, yeah.
Yeah. So now, would you then be heading? Oh no, I think you're going to head up to Bootham now, aren't you, Bootham? Remember rightly, because you've got the exhibition.
Left out with the Minster Inn, you come on to Bootham. That's where the traditional routes in the city, Bootham. You take a right. You walk past the Bootham Tavern, which isn't a bad pub, but that would bring us then to the exhibition, which is literally at the Junction. I like the exhibition. It does divide a bit of opinion. But inside it's a very plush. Well,
Nick's shaking his head at the moment. Nick's shaking his head.
I mean, it's got an imitation rail family going there, and at Christmas they really go to town. Having said that, I mean they've also got 2 or 3 rail ales on there. It's actually got York's biggest beer garden, but because it's just the wrong side of the walls, does it get the crowd? So, say if you come to York this summer, obviously a lot of people are going to come back. Got pension demand inside the city centre. You'll be struggling for a seat. So if you just come through Bootham Bar. Across the road, you'll see the exhibition. They've actually got York's largest beer garden. So I like the exhibition. It does divide a bit of opinion.
The building's all right, Bruce, but I went there on your recommendation and I was shocked at the price. To say that it isn't city centre, to say that, it's one of those places that maybe people had to find out. I'm sure I paid over £4 for a pint.
Well, that's pretty much the norm.
Is that not to kind of make that different? So you've got your Bootham Tavern across the road if you want a £2 pint of Carling. And I don't know whether...
Well, that's Sam Smith's, isn't it? Across the road?
No, that's the Thwaites pub across the road.
Thwaites pub, yeah. This hasn't always been a pub, has it? Was it a hotel prior to being the exhibition?
But I think it's also welcome people in for a drink, though, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting enough, actually, I was thinking about that yesterday. I was up to be in Ben Ridding yesterday, a very, very posh, well, not a village really. It's a more a suburb of village.
Yeah.
There's private roads in there, incredibly big houses, an extremely wealthy enclave, and they've got a hotel there called the Grantley Arms. Now we had about 50 minutes to wait for a train, so I was praying. So there's no pub in Benridden, but went to Grantley Arms. It was interesting to see that they've really now got geared up to get some money in. They made a cracking little beer garden, and I think a lot of these hotels now are going to be looking at the revenue and be a little bit more welcoming to locals to get the revenue in. Far back, because of course being from Malton, we're from Swansea, Malton, of course you all know, and traditionally in the past there we had hotels where people would go for drinks, like the Green Man was fantastic bars, didn't it? You still get a lot of that going on the island, don't you, where hotels have bars. I think you might see a lot more of that coming on now. I think hotels will have to maybe not just rely on the bed and breakfast trade, will they?
Well, it's not so much that, it's the travel trade, isn't it? It's your guys and girls who are traveling for work, and they're not going to get that, are they, really? And overseas. So, from the exhibition, if you looked to came out and looked left, you'd see Bootham Bar, which would be in front of you there, wouldn't you, Bruce? And just the other side of Bootham Bar is the Lamb and Lion.
It is still to rename the Lamb and Lion. Now, not the oldest pub in York because it's been knocked down and demolished at various stages. But if you took the measure, there's been a pub there and then it's been something else. The Lamb and Lion could arguably one of York's oldest pubs. Of course, Bootham Bar was where the ranks gathered outside to try and siege the city. And when they came inside, they did actually demolish it then. Lamb and Lions was never, it was been the Lamb in the past. And of course, this is a mixture of pub names in it because we knew one time, as we talked about a few weeks ago, all pubs' names had a reference to religious figures. Then, of course, after Henry VIII, it was deemed to be a much better bet to suddenly take on a regal theme, and hence the Lion. So it's about to rename as well. Actually, it was even impressed. I'm beggared, but they are going to rename the Lamb and Lion, which seems a strange move to me.
So has this always been there? Because it's been there for 30 years, but I can't remember when we were like 18, 19. I've got a feeling, did it shut for a while? Because I can't remember never going in there. Yeah.
It was a guest house for a while.
That's right.
I say in the past, it's been various things and shut down. I mean, other things actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, so inside it's been more renovated and preserved, it's fair to say. But it's dark woods, it's got the corridors, it's got some great rooms, it's a candle lit on an evening. It's a very, it's got a great feel to it, hasn't it, the Lamb and Lion? I have to say, they made a cracking job.
Yeah, good if there's a group of you, if you can find room to yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a traditional pub to me. It's more of a kind of, I don't know, I imagine it being like one of those coffee houses, because I guess where the bar is, it doesn't quite have that pubby feel, does it? It's a bit more, don't know really, I don't know how you say it really, but like Nick says, there's quite a lot of nice little rooms, and again, obviously there's room out there's a courtyard at the back as well, a garden out the back.
Well, the garden, yeah, for beer garden. I would say if I was going to take somebody to a beer garden in York, that's the one I'll remember, plus you've got a view of the Minster as well, which is quite nice.
But has it only got that one bar on the left-hand side? Is there a bar on the right?
No,
and so it can get quite. I know one of the problems is. To be honest, I've been there a couple of times and walked out because you're about 13 back from the bar, and it's not a very big bar either, is it? So it can be quite hard to not get served, but just to get your time in there as well.
But if you're lucky, and if you can get a seat in the beer garden, I mean, they've got this stunning view of the Minster. They've got the people on the walls, walking on the city walls. It's a stunning place to sit and have a beer.
And again, this little bit of Bootham here, as you kind of turn and walk towards the Minster, a great example, because I got God knows how many pubs and bars and restaurants there are, and it's not a long street, is it? It's probably about 200 yards long. But I mean, I can think of probably there's a hole in the wall, and I know you're going to mention one or two other ones. There is, I don't know, must be 5-6 pubs down this one little street, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So just opposite about 60, 70 yards on the opposite side of the road to the Lamb and Lion, you've got the Eagle and Child. This used to be a famous York restaurant, a beloved York restaurant called Plunkett's, a sort of bistro where everyone went to theatres and did sort of Tex-Mex, affordable Tex-Mex food. They retired, and Leeds Brewery turned it into the Eagle and Child. So again, it's been a shop that's then been renovated to a restaurant. But again, it's got a big, large area downstairs. There's a few comfy chairs near the front. A lot of open space, get big crowds in there. Sort of a dining area towards the back. And again, they've got quite a large outdoor area. I was surprised it was close tonight. And then there are 2 floors upstairs where the little rooms have been turned to drinking areas. And most famously on the top floor, on the top right-hand side window. If you watch on YouTube, you can see how the windows are inverted. One of those faces the Minster. You've got a stunning view towards the Minster, a unique view actually. But if you go to the back room on the top floor, there's a large mirror, and this was Plunkett's was the place where the Rolling Stones used to stay drinking late when they were touring in the north of England. They'd head back. The guy who had Plunkett's would open the back door for them. They'd go in there, and this was their preferred drinking hall. And they've all wrote the names in lipstick on the mirror, which is totally preserved. So if you're a Rolling Stones fan, you can go and see all the
nice.
lipstick.
Must be a big mirror, is it, Bruce, for Mick Jagger with big lips?
And again, I mean, you're banging the kind of middle of the tourist centre. Well, not at the moment, because it's quite quiet, but I think, Bruce, this is a bit quiet because, well, you wouldn't perhaps notice a pub unless you knew it, would you? Because there's no big major signage, and it looks like a kind of a solicitor's, doesn't it, or lawyers. Yeah, so it might not be a bad shout if you have to go to York in the middle of summer when it's normally evening. This might not be a bad shout. And like I said, it's one of those kind of TARDIS pubs, and that it is quite big. Isn't it? Having all those floors means that you can spread out quite a bit as well. And as we said, there are loads of pubs down the street anyway. And I think tourists tend to go to ones that are near the Minster, the York Arms, and the Hole in the Wall, and maybe the Lamb and Lion. So yeah, it might not be a bad shout, this one, to get in there. So we're on the same street here, aren't we? Still not. Well, not we are for the first bit anyway.
Yeah. So we've got the York Arms there on the left-hand side. Should maybe mention the three-legged mare that's almost next door to the Evening Child. So he's worth a visit. We've been leaving out really. So the York Arms is currently closed. This is the Sam Smith's pub, and it's really sad to see it closed. It's knocking on about 18 months. It's been closed now, and it's literally it's in the shadow of the Minster. Only Mr. Smith could have a pub in such a location and have it closed. If the other people left, it's remained closed. It's actually quite it's an unremarkable pub, apart from the fact it has a fantastic little snug at the very front, hasn't it? You're going through the door, sharp left, and there's a really old-fashioned, traditional, unspoilt snug. Would seat about 8 people, tables at the bar, get a few characters in there. And when it does reopen, if you go back in there, I mean, you've not been to an English pub snug before. This is it in a nutshell. It's great.
What I like about that, Bruce, it's got a sliding door as well, hasn't
it? Yeah.
So if you get in and you're coming in a bit drunk, they can't get into the little snug at the front because they're trying to push the door open, and they don't realise you have to slide it. So that's quite a novelty.
It is, yeah. I mean, it was also sort of famously, it was a pub for everybody, but it's also famously one of the meeting places for the gay and lesbian community in York as well. So obviously it being closed has kind of left them with a big gap as well, really. So if we look at that shot, then we've got York Minster, we've got St Martin the Belfry, and to the right of St Martin the Belfry, which as the plaque says, was where Guy Fawkes was baptised, is the Guy Fawkes Inn. Now, rather contentiously, both the people on the Guy Fawkes Inn claim he was born there, but there's also another plaque on a shop front in Bootham stating he was born there as well. So disputed birthplace for Guy Fawkes. His
mother must have had a wide stretch.
That's right. Yeah. So nobody really knows where he was born. But obviously at the Guy Fawkes, I mean, look, you've got a pub here, and I'm just thinking about this today, really. For a tourist town, there are places in the city where they could take advantage, but they don't really. They kind of live up to the setting instead of just taking direct money. And the Guy Fawkes is really a cracking little place. Again, dark wood, black floorboards, very, very atmospheric when it's evening. Again, it's candle lit to the extent that you wouldn't be able to read a newspaper in there. Got a cracking little bar on the left where you go in there. Good choice of ale ales, affordable, decent, source home cooked local food. I think they do a conspirators menu for about 2 courses for £15 during the week. Pretty good food, and again a courtyard out the back. You can stay there. When you go upstairs, you see all the floors are slanted. A great building, and again, not always. It's a pub that's been open and closed over the years, hasn't it? Do you remember it being the Dick Turpin?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and it was a hotel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
For the last 20 years. It's reopened. It's a thriving place, and I say all credit to them, really. Unlike you think a place in London where they just make no effort, they know the people are going to go there because of the location. They don't take it for granted, and the food's great.
It is. It's a great pub, and I think I can remember me and you sat there. I think I was doing a gig in York one day, and you went there. It was, I think, November time, Bruce. It was, like you say, it was fantastic. But I think my challenge has been that it's quite what I would say a seating oriented pub. If you can get a seat, you're okay. But if you can't sit down, there's not a lot of places you stand. And if you can stand, you look a bit weird because you're stood next to people at tables, aren't you? Yeah, the bar's not massive. And if you stand at the bar, then there's people always coming to get drinks. So, like you say, it's maybe. But again, I guess it's not. Oh, well, have tourists go in there, but I don't think it's quite on the tourist kind of trail. And you can, certainly if you went there early doors, you would get in there. And yeah, definitely a pub worth going into. But it does, I guess, it just feel a bit oldie worldy, doesn't it? They've got quite a lot of that dark old furniture. I've just cracked this Yorkshire pudding beer, Nick, and it's different, isn't it? It's I can definitely get Yorkshire pudding. Yeah,
it's very refreshing. Now, Howard brought us some samples for work because we're looking at stocking it at work, and nobody could really take the Yorkshire pudding apart from I said the back bite. You could just taste it.
Oh no, I could. I can almost taste dripping at your first hit it. Yeah.
But no, I found it refreshing. I say it's a bitter beer. It's not a floor, it's not a sweet one, but I like it.
He signed a deal with the supermarket, hasn't he? Which supermarket's going to start?
Morrison's, yeah. He's got in 3 or 4 Morrison's, which he's pleased with because he said it's just a pallet. When I said, "Oh, do you mean the local one, Malton?" He said, "No, just 3 or 4." So I haven't seen it in Malton. So where it's going, I don't know.
I'm down to try. I can't find it anywhere in York.
Yeah. So but I mean, that's all he's doing now. He's dropped the Malton Brewery. He's dropped all his other beers. He's just purely concentrating on the Yorkshire. In fact, when he dropped some samples off with us, he was going down to the Great Yorkshire Pudding people at Doncaster, somewhere down there, to collect about 8,000 Yorkshire puddings. Because what he does, he takes their misshapes. Yeah. So any puddings that aren't fit, not fit for human consumption, but don't look right, then I suppose it's being environmentally friendly, recycling and stuff like that. So he was on his way down to Doncaster to pick up 8,000 Yorkshire puddings.
Right, back to you. I'm going to go back one there because if you come out of the Guy Fawkes and you turn right, you're heading into kind of what is, I think, one of the best bits of York. So you've still got the Minster on your left, haven't you, Bruce? But then you're going to enter kind of Stonegate and High Stonegate. And again, this is one of those iconic. With I guess, to be honest, I prefer this one to the Shambles. It's not quite as medieval as the Shambles, which we'll come to probably in part 3. But it's one of those iconic streets. It'll always be pretty rammed, won't it? Unless you're with Bruce in the middle of pandemic at 6 o'clock when you're biking along it, as you were here. And again, it's got quite a lot. Again, another street that's got quite a few different pubs along it, hasn't it? Including the Oldie Star, which is supposed to be the oldest pub, isn't it, in York?
It is, yeah. We have omitted it for me because it's sad to
It's
say.
been naff, innit?
It's not a great pub, the All Star in. If you really think want to go, it's got a huge wooden placard across the street advertising it.
Yeah.
Because when it was the All Star in, they saw the land in front of it for a gentleman to build a shop, and the condition was they had to put the banner across the road. So that's quite good. But the pub itself is, to be honest, a bit disappointing.
And you've still got an old a York Brewery pub down there as well, haven't you? Is that still there?
No, that's closed.
Is that closed now?
Yeah,
Right.
not too open, I believe it's still here.
So we would say
once again, Bruce. Last time I went to Yearly Star, I was outraged by the price, and I actually wrote a comment on TripAdvisor, and they responded that they actually put the price up after a certain time because it's a tourist pub, as though that's all right. So, like they said, after 4:30, the price does go up, and I think I ended up paying something like £4.30 for a pint of bitter in there. Which was
I was worried about the York Brewery pubs, but again, I was listening to that podcast with the brew, not the Brew York guys, the Rhythm Time for Brew guys, and the guys from Crooked Tap, and they were saying actually that the Black Sheep that took them over, I've not done a bad job actually, in that they tend to do the York Brewery beers in the Three-Legged Mare and the what's the other one? The Last Drop, is it? And then also do some of Black Sheep's kind of more. They're kind of experimental beers, so sours, and I think there's a milkshake one at the moment. So because again, they're not bad pubs. Three-Legged Mare, which I know we've missed out here, but that's a nice little pub, Bruce, isn't it? It's again just to pop in. Certainly try some of those York beers as well.
It's actually now a Black Sheep pop-up shop.
Right.
But I think they can soon put it back to.
Yeah. So your choice on Stonegate then is the House of the Trembling Madness and the Punch Bowl. So which are we going to go to first?
The House of Trembling Madness is absolute must see. Really, doesn't look too inspired from the outside, does it?
No.
You've got a beer shop downstairs there now. That runs a frontage. You go through there. There's another room through the back. And I did call there looking for some Yorkshire pudding beer about a month ago. I was absolutely staggered to see that about 85% of what they sell is now in cans. There's just a few bottles remaining, which really is a sign of the times. If you're looking for spirits, you have to go downstairs, and there's a huge spirits display case where you wait to get to the gents and ladies' toilet. A vast collection of gins, whiskies, rums, spirits. So amazing when you went for the toilet there. But the real gem of the place is you go upstairs to that first floor, and this building dates at the 11th, 12th century, I believe, and it really has they've maintained the medieval feel to it incredibly well. It's timbers, it's big oak tables, there are loads of stuffed animals, there are furs. They've got a tiny bar where they always maintain as many beers as they can. So there's a couple of 2 or 3 interesting rail ales there, some craft beers, some German imported beer, normally wheat beer, fruit beer, and most remarkably of all, behind this tiny bar, they're actually cooking meals in there as well. They're cooking, they turn out a lot of food from this tiny bar. It's pretty crowded up there in normal times, of course. It's a capacity of 50, so you can often go in, have to wait on the stairs. It's like a 1 in 1 out basis. So after June, if you get to normal, that'd be great. But again, really atmospheric. View of the Minster out the window out the back there, and I say it's an absolute joy to go in there. Really, you could sit there.
And I'm just going to say, and there's Betty's next door, or little Betty's. So again, if you're taking a family with you, this is a good way you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can send your other half and the children. They can go to Betty's and queue up the stairs.
No, they can't.
A big queue.
No, they can't. They're closing now.
Well, well. Still there now, isn't it? In Bruce's picture, it's certainly are they?
They're keeping it as a coffee takeaway, as in you can buy coffee and stuff from there. But I think they're getting rid of the cafe because of the problem like the Trembling Madness have got because of fire regulations and health and safety. They've said it's just too difficult for staff to work in that environment. serving meals and cooking and preparing. So as far as I know, they're keeping the shop, but the actual cafe bit is going.
All credit to Betty's though, because a few years ago they actually rent the building to the House of the Trembling Madness. They're going to extend Betty's, and then there was a bit of an outcry and said, "Oh well, if it's quite popular, we won't do that." So that was quite good of them, really. Yeah. So definitely get one of your top 10 visits. House of Trembling Madness, totally unique. Nowhere else like that I can think of in the country. You'd absolutely love it.
And do you know what the name's from? Because I don't know why I didn't realise.
I did read about this. I've forgotten, but yes,
it's the DTs.
Yeah, it's do with drinking. Yeah, DTs. Yeah. That if you come off the booze, you get trembling madness, as it used to be called in the good old days.
I thought it was some kind of medieval disease.
No. Apparently, it's alcoholic. When alcoholics have got trembling madness, it was. Yeah. So you're carrying on down for all the throngs. Again, there's some very interesting shops down here. Some are selling armour, some are selling pots and pans, and some are selling God knows what else. And you come
Christmas.
to Punch Bowl. You go past a big teddy bear.
Cuckoo clocks.
There's a big teddy bear still there as well next to the Punch Bowl.
Yeah. It's still there.
Yeah. And you get
that'd be covered in COVID, won't it? Amount of people that go and smarm it and maul it and touch it and hug it and touch. Oh no. Don't get
and all the time you'll have loads of cameras, because behind your shoulder is a fantastic view of the Minster peeking out amongst these medieval timbered houses and shops and things. And then you come again, you're almost a pub that you wouldn't expect really halfway down. Well, not quite, nearly 3/4 of the way down. They said to the square, don't you? St. Anne's Square, yeah. The Punch Bowl, Bruce.
Yeah, Punch Bowl, like all Punch Bowls, it got its name because at one point it would be a central drinking headquarters for members of the Whig Party, who were copped with the Liberals these days. The Whig Party, of course, was swept from power when they acted quite abysmally by offering no support to the Irish in the potato famine. That was the end of those. But if you've got a pub there you call the Punch Bowl, it's probably because in the past years gone by, it was a central headquarters, unofficial drinking headquarters for the members of the Whig Party, who were traditionally drunk punch. I believe the Conservatives in those days drunk claret, apparently. So again, being a few alterations to the Punch Bowl, but really quite a traditional pub, part of the Nicholson's chain now. They don't make a bad job of it, do they? They keep spending money on it, really. It's got two smallish rooms, the most atmospheric is room at the back, and a long sort of linear room as well. And again, a choice of ale ales, traditional Nicholson's menu, and well worth a visit as well. It was also a brothel in days gone by, and there's supposed to be the ghost of a murdered prostitute who was killed by an over-amorous member of the Whig Party, sort of early day Jeremy Thorpe. She's supposed to wander the bit, really. But yeah, definitely worth a look in, saying.
So, I'm just going to take us back, because we've done 9 pubs so far. Now, again, we wouldn't encourage anybody to have 9 pints, because it's kind of you've only done an hour. We've only done whatever we've done so far. If you want to pick 3 of those, Nick, if you were coming from the station, which of those 3 would you probably say you would want to call in?
Oh, blimey. Certainly Minster in, which was the first one, wasn't it?
I'm going to flick back for you.
Go on then. Certainly. Well, I can do the pubs which I wouldn't go in. Won't go in the exhibition. Won't go in the Old Starry. Lamb and Lion, if I'm sitting outside in the beer garden, as I say, if I had to take somebody to an outside area for a drink, then I would take them there. Only been in the Eagle and Child once with you, Bruce. And in fact, that photograph that I had, you sat at a table like a medieval tapestry behind you. That's where it was. You couldn't remember it was yourself, but that was the end of a long session we'd had in York, and it's just come to me. That's where that was. And then you've not featured the 3-legged mare, but that's where we would always go. And in fact, that's where we went for your before you got married, Bruce. When we rendezvoused in there half an hour, and then it was a 5-minute walk round to the church, wasn't it? So.
I mean, it's not a testament to the calibre of pubs in York that when I had to make some limits on it, when you could
absolutely.
Out of list of where to tell people to go, really, it says a lot about the range and choice we've got, doesn't it, really? Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Bruce? Which is your must-go-to on that list?
If you love pubs, you love the Minster Inn. Trembling Madness is just a totally unique experience. It's a great atmosphere in there. And if it was dark, I would definitely try and get in the Guy Fawkes, because I say we've got that ancient sort of candlelit vibe going on, and it's great fun, really. Yeah.
I think if you went Trembling Madness perhaps either early, so you got in there about just after opening time, or I don't know, maybe about 3:30, 4 o'clock when it tends to kind of naturally get a bit quieter. There was a bit of a lull before the office staff come in. I always go in the Mansfield pub, the Holy Wall, because for whatever reason, I always get free beers in there because I've always got something on my phone that says you get free. I don't know what I must have done. I must have signed up for Mansfield beers many months ago.
They do that green card as well.
Right, that's what it is. Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Because once again, Mansfield doesn't exist anymore. So I think it's
Green King or somebody that maybe.
Yeah.
M&B or somebody.
If there's any sport on and you've got the green card app, you get beers and stuff like that. So.
Now you're going to now dive us, Bruce, into the kind of the unknown bit of York, really, because there are these snickleways which York is quite famous for, actually, which are all these kind of little intertwining things, and they're quite nice for those that know about York because they're normally a lot quieter and not as touristy as the main fairs. So you've dived in. I think where you've gone here now, you've kind of, I would have gone across where Mulberry Hall used to be, cut through that little link there, go past where Brown's was, and then you cross that you into kind of past Richer Sounds or whatever's on that street and into the.
I should have really taken a picture of the Barley Hall stickleway is the longest and most famous, and that runs from Stonegate to Grey Plain in Swinegate there. Grey Plain. Some strange stories about the origin of that. Apparently, in the old days, it's where all the ladies of the night used to hang out, and it was known as Grow Plain.
Grow Plain, yeah.
Grow Plain.
Years have gone by.
Yeah. And again, these little snickleways, there'll be bars and things. Every time I go to York, there's another bar or one's shut, one's opened again. So is this one off the market here?
It is off the market. I think Scudrum gets the market. And actually, this actually is it classed as a snickleway, believe it or not. Got a rather grand name of King's Pub. It's actually a very small street, very close together. It's got a deli on it, two pubs. It used to have a great little shop there. It's got a former very famous sandwich shop called Krusty's that's actually going to be turned into York's smallest hotel. The sandwich shop now to be is going to have 4 or 5 rooms around the paper the other day. So that it could be more central than that. And you've got these 2 cracking place drink on the outside. So Pivney then, an ancient sort of ancient looking building. Again, you go up there, like the Guy Fawkes, sloping floorboards, wooden floorboards. This is owned by the guys, of course.
York Tap, isn't it?
And York Tap on the station. Yeah, close to Thornbridge, and in Port Bernard Lager. And again, this was the first venture in York, Pivney. Drinker's paradise, absolute bar packed full of hand pumps and gas pumps and keg pumps with beer from all over the world, all over the country. Fantastic. If you're a serious drinker and you're interested, you've really got to go to Pivney. They have a vast choice. You can stay there every day for a week and have 10 pints and 10 drinks and not drink.
Used to be a little specialist travel agents that one, Bruce. That's where you used to get your gig tickets and concert tickets, wasn't it?
Travel options, and in those days you had to buy a concert ticket, and they pretty much had a monopoly in York, didn't they?
Yeah.
And collect it. But see, we never know how to go in. They made a cracking job of it, haven't they? Really. And
I don't think I've ever been in
Pivney. Oh, I've not. Yeah. And I said they've opened with the limited seats if I get them. Then right across it, you've got Valhalla. Now, Valhalla is a sort of a new build. Nick's pulling faces, but it's great. It's actually York's first Viking theme bar, but they don't really overdo it at all. I mean, the big spots are really.
You drink out of bloody horns, don't you?
Yeah, you can drink out of horns. Basically, it's bench
trestle tables and benches and many sheepskins and.
Yeah, it's very small though, isn't it? You do shit on sheepskin. Big supporters of all the local breweries though. Interesting choice of beers, not overpriced. They're on the, we have a special York craft beer card. They offer the 10% discount as well. And again, it's one of those, it was always packed full of people. And because it's bench seating, invariably, unusually, you always end up striking conversation with the people about you because you're pretty much, snuggled up to them really as well.
But they're mainly Danish and Norwegian mainly.
No, well, here's a story for you. Bruce took me in there. I went to the bar. Bruce got himself sat down on one of these tables with benches surrounded by people, started talking to this woman. I'm stood there in the queue. This bloke comes up to the wrong end of the queue, straight to the bar, expecting to get served. I turned and said, "Hey, mate, there's a queue here." So he looked at me. I said, "Yeah, behind me." Eventually comes and stands behind me. I get served, sits down with Bruce, and it was a bloke directly opposite me. Bruce was talking to his missus. So can't say I enjoyed that beer much, but they were tourists and they were loving it. I think they'd been every night, but because of that, I think he thought he was a regular and he could just walk up to the bar without standing in line. But I won't having it. So
that's it. It leads to communal conversation. We'll forgive him his
and fights probably as well. Yeah.
Right. Well, I've just cracked my next beer open, which actually fits quite well here. This is. I've got to read the label here. This is Albino Squid Assassin.
Oh my goodness.
7.4% red amber ale. This is one of the brew dog beers that they did for their AGM. So albino, I think you go to Valhalla and have some albino squid assassin amber ale. That sounds quite nice. That does. I think Nick, I'd miss both of these and go to Thornbridge pub if it was me in this area.
Absolutely.
Which I think we're going to get to in part 3 out with Bruce Market Tavern.
He's got a very similar range of beers to Fred the Market Cat. Yeah.
Right.
I like Valhalla.
Now from here, you kind of jump because I would.
We're going to Scarborough then.
I would have thought you might have gone down towards the Blue Bowl, which I guess you're going to get to in a minute, because obviously this Pivney and Valhalla are on the edge of the Shambles, which is probably York's most famous street, isn't it? The very old. The Shambles was the Butcher Street, and this is where the a bit like in that picture there for YouTube, but even more so, the buildings completely overhang, don't they? And there's very limited. You can technically shake hands, can't you, across the upper windows from one side of the street
Well,
to
we
the
get
other.
the Shambles in part 3, yeah.
Yeah, and that's full of Harry Potter shops now anyway, which is a bit boring. And again, there's a couple of pubs down there, isn't there now? Yeah, there's certainly one pub there.
And the Market Cat, I think we'll touch on as well next time around.
Yeah. So you kind of, well, I don't know, you kind of walk and then back down in through the main shopping area. And we're going to end up probably in any month in winter, probably 4 foot underwater on the King's Stave. Now, this is the King's Arms. You said it was the York Arms in your text, Bruce, but it's the King's Arms, isn't it?
Sorry, it's King's Arms, yeah. Yeah, the King's Arms.
Which is the famous pub because it's one that always floods. And if you go in there, there's all these marks on the wall where over the last God knows how many years it floods. And they have got a cracking beer garden. Well, it's not a beer garden. It's on the South Estate, isn't it? As you can see there. And I guess that was packed today, was it, Bruce? But it was heaving, wasn't it?
Well, actually, today was the quietest I've seen it. Has been around. And sadly, on Monday the 12th, when the pubs opened, everybody went down there. Lots of people started fighting. I do believe somewhere on YouTube there's a video of the ladies fighting, and one lady's, it's literally, and she's trying to drag her into the river. I've not seen it myself, but I'm told it's quite entertaining. Yeah, people came to save her from leaving a watery fate. Yeah, but so obviously incredibly popular place. I'm sure some people are going back, clutching £2, asking for a pint, and getting a bit shocked at the new prices Mr. Smith's imposed. And next door to it, you've got a pub which wouldn't normally mention to go inside because it's all been renovated and ruined now. But again, if King's Arms can't get to there, you can go along to the riverside, which was always known as the Lowther River. And had a lovely old pub sign, actually. It was a bit of, I can't believe they got rid of it, really. I'm really quite shocked. Yeah. That was ancient signage, wasn't it?
Is the Kings of Sam's, mate? It's Kings of Sam's.
Yeah. Sadly, no hand pump in there, though. But
no.
And on this
never has been. It's always been
because of them
little clicks. Yeah. And it always dispensed half a pint. So you get one bar font with 2 little chrome nozzles coming out. And basically, you put your pint glass underneath, click, click. That's how it used to be. You get half a pint dispensed from each nozzle, like they have in the clubs. It's always been electric in there. I was once in there talking to the guy who was the manager and talking about the floods and stuff. And he recounted it had flooded and the water hadn't completely resided, but they actually reopened the pub and they had sort of like upturned plastic beer crates with planks on so people get to the bar. And he said 2 American tourists came in and they went something like, "Oh, God, this is what we love about Britain. Oh, these theme pubs that they do, these theme pubs." Thought it was like that all the time. So, that's the King's Arms.
And again, I'll get there. Well, again, I'm not sure why. I probably wouldn't say go to the King's Arms. We always should allow them, but I'd be interested to see what that's like now. As Bruce said, it gets absolutely rammed down there. And I think on a night, Bruce, well, I think they control it quite a lot now because the river's quite dangerous. Actually, a lot of people actually die in this river. It's not tidal here now, but there's a hell of a current, isn't there? And I think every year, quite a lot of people, do end up in the river. And it's a big river as well. It's deep. It's fast flowing. And unfortunately, there are fatalities. And I think across there's actually, isn't there a lifeboat in York that's pretty much...
I'll hover about when the drinkers out at night time.
Yeah. But certainly, if it's a lovely day, it's worth wandering down there and going on. And there's a nice little walk down to the next bridge, isn't there? Which again often kind of cuts the queues off. And that's heading towards Bishopthorpe. Put it down that end, you'd be kind of heading towards some of those pubs we spoke to in the first one. If you go right at the next bridge there, and then I think that's it then. So I think I'm going to come back to this one, which Bruce may recognise this place.
Can I just take a trip down memory lane then again?
Yes.
Now, another pub, as you go back up the road by the King's Arms, can you remember the pub that used to be up there? It's called the Stone Roses now.
Grapes. I liked it when it was the Grapes.
Because it was a Thwaites pub, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
So once again, in the early days as I was going out drinking real ale and trying to find different beers to drink, we used to go in there. But it was weird, wasn't it? Because it had like a mezzanine balcony around it.
Yeah.
And then they had like some massive, great big arcade games in there, like driving games and stuff.
Always been
so
a cute building.
It was like almost a traditional pub because it was Thwaites selling Thwaites beer.
Yeah.
It had arcade games in it, and then there was like a cast iron staircase that went up the middle of the pub, around onto like a little narrow balcony.
So it's quick
and it was always known. I think that's why it eventually became known as the Stone Roses. But it was quite a rock pub as well, wasn't it? We used to play like rock music and stuff. So I always remember going in there, when we were first out and about looking for a different beer, as it were. That's in the days when we used to go at the Spread Eagle and places like that, And Walker's Bar at the bottom of Micklegate, that's Fagin's or Dirty Dick or something like that, isn't it? So
the Cumberland Street, the roads that went down the river, they were just full of people who worked on by there and all the barges, and they were called the water lanes, and apparently there was some legendary terrible rough pubs down there. I'd love if somebody one day would get one and try and recreate one of those where you went in, there was straw and sawdust on the floor.
Got knifed when he came out. Or press go. And again, just for context, we're now kind of by the river. And again, if those on YouTube, if from the left of where these couple of pubs are, you've got York Dungeon, you've got Clifford's Tower, you've got the Major York Museum there. So again, if you're out with a family or with a group of people, they could go and do some of the sightseeing stuff where you could be having a couple of beers in by the river here as well. So Nick's just shot off. So yeah, Bruce, we'll do this one because you'll recognise this one probably more than Nick. And this, I guess, tees up for maybe when we talk about London in the next couple of weeks, we're going to do a London podcast. And this is on, I think it's something like, it's called something like Lower Oxford Street or something. And we know it well because there's a Sam Smith's pub next door, like you say, which is one of London's kind of hidden gems, the Crown, which is on High Holborn, kind of near Tottenham Court Road. And this is a very famous umbrella shop, which you can't miss, really. And it's completely out of kilter because there's quite a lot of modern buildings up next. In fact, you see next door. And yeah, James Smith and Sons have been there 2030. And I'll put it on there, Bruce, because I got a tweet today that apparently it is reopening. There was a real worry that it was going to shut down.
Wow.
And as you say, it stands out because it just sells umbrellas. It's unique. And I say, Nick, this is where
we've gone to London.
I know. Well, we'll just tee it. I just got this. This came through on a tweet this week, and we mentioned already there's a Sam's. That's the Crown is next door, which is a Sam's pub in London. Where again, I remember going there in the good old days where I could go in there and get a pint for £1.90, and then next day to say, "How do you go?" I was like, "Oh yeah, well, how much did you pay for a pint? £1.90." Eh?
Yeah,
we paid £6. The Crown,
Princess Louisa, and City of York. All of that straight, Tottenham Court Road, Turnty Holborn, and you've got half an hour between the three of them. 3 Sam Smith's pubs, 3 cracking places.
Now, it was interesting that the person who said this tweet said it's great news that the Smiths umbrellas are going to stay open, apparently, because it was threatened with closure. But no, they are opening. But they said, but this has got to be a front for something, hasn't it? And I don't know, have you pair seen the Kingsman series?
Oh, yes.
Which are quite good, aren't they? And they have like a front, they have like a tailor shop, don't they? That's kind of the front for like with the Secret Service. And I reckon that's what this place is. I reckon when you go through those doors there, MI5 or James Bond or somebody, you press a button and, or you nod to the umbrella bloke and he says, this place, sir. So, classic.
I mean, in this day and age, and it's saying, look at the building to the right hand side of it there. It's just Absolutely amazing.
It is. You can't miss. So great. So I will definitely mention that when I talk about London in a couple of weeks' time. And then just the last one from me before we conclude. Again, just really, you guys are interested in this. Pete Brown, obviously quite a famous writer of beer and all things pubby and beery. Again, he must be a bit bored. I think he's written 3 books already this year. But anyway, he is starting to do some quite interesting little kind of get-togethers for the next few weeks on a Wednesday, and next Wednesday he's doing Man Walks into a Pub, which I remember was his first book, and it's a great book, and we've mentioned that thing already, and certainly one that I think all of us have read. I've read it several times, and he's going to do a little bit of a kind of a QA, talk a little bit about the book, about what inspired him, and to give people ideas about writing about beer and pubs. So I just thought I'd flag that up. I've signed up. It's $3.50. It's like a Zoom session where he does a thing. And I know I think he's going to do 3 Sheets in the Wind a couple weeks after, which is that where he takes the IPA from England to India on a sailboat as well. So I just thought I'd flag that up because it's quite interesting about how he does that as well.
Hang on, that date doesn't exist. Wednesday, the 20th of April.
It's gone. That was last night.
But that was 21st yesterday.
No, it's next Wednesday. That's wrong. I think it's the 28th then.
So should be
28th.
Well, no, but that's wrong because it's the 22nd today.
It's the 28th. Yeah, that's it. I didn't recognise that. That's on his tweet today, so I might mention that to him and get a free book. Okay, so that is it for tonight. It's been another jam-packed episode with music and all kinds of things, and Yorkshire pudding beer. This assistant squid's going a little bit.
Looks
slower.
like it's getting dark in York, bro.
It's getting dark in Staffordshire as well. So we're going to pick up again next week and do York Part 3, and I've kind of named that Staggering Back to the Station because Bruce probably sent me at least another 16, no, maybe not 16, another 7 or 8 pubs already, and he's still got more because he said there's more to come. So I said, no, that's enough now. We're going to stop. So we will pick up again next Thursday when we record York Part 3. And we hope that we get this stuff out. I'll try and get everything uploaded for Friday, tomorrow, the 23rd. And again, as I mentioned, we will try and make sure we've got links to Sophie's Facebook page she mentioned when she kicked us off tonight. And as always, you can get us on the podcast. We would love to get a few more reviews, please, guys, because you're not very good at giving us reviews. So we can do some reviews. And then remember, if you are either podcasting it, then check out our YouTube channel. Just look for Malt Travail. And if you are YouTubing, why not also put us on your podcast playlist? So again, we're on now Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and I did get us on Spotify over Easter as well. So we should be on there as well if you look for us. So highlights.
Rose, do you want to borrow me new light if it's getting dark?
Yeah. Wow.
I've got a new light.
Crikey. No. Excellent stuff.
You see it?
Very nice. A Grolsch light.
Yeah. It's a big Grolsch top.
You need some kids, Nicholas, to be able to spend your bloody money on and not spend on shite from brewery. Shite from breweries.
I've not bought the Good Beer Guide for a few years because it tend to be informed opinions, But I was in a charity shop in Ilkley yesterday and got the 2019 Good Beer Guide for £1.75. So I not read it for years. I had to wait Christmas at dentist there. The Boatmaker's Arm's not in it in Keighley, isn't it? Did you know this? How on earth is that allowed to happen?
Right.
Oh, that's as we discussed on episode 2, Bruce. This is what happens when you let local camera regions or local branches have their beery scores and whatever reason people,
I suppose. Well, what other pubs in Keighley are in there then, Bruce? Because I can think of a couple that are sort of on par with the Boatmakers, but not.
There's two in there, actually. I'll have to get out for next week, yeah.
Right.
But it was bizarre because I'm going to the Isle of Wight in August, probably. And there was the Good Beer Guide, it's called something called the King Henry Inn. Gave it a fantastic review, said steaks to die for. And of course, thinking, oh, this sounds great. So I went on to TripAdvisor. It sounds bloody terrible.
Yeah.
So it's very, very.
But remember, a lot of that is because of the range of beer. And obviously, I would imagine that the Boatmakers served landlord Taylor's beer, and I remember actually very rarely you'd get anything else on there. And I remember part of the story for most of these pubs is why Sam Smith's pubs don't never get in there because they only serve Sam's beers. And I think some of the rating certainly has been weighted on the range of beer that you can buy in and cask beer particularly in these pubs. So I think, and again, I know there was more debate. I don't know, I get a feeling at the moment Cameron's in a little bit of a kind of a place where, they're going to decide what they want to do really. And I think the AGM of the weekend, I didn't get all of it, but I was jumping in and out of it. And I think there's a big debate going on about where does Canberra go? Is it cask? Is it craft? Is it, what can we include? What can't we include? Where does cider fit and perry? We've had some of these discussions, haven't we, on our podcast?
Yeah.
It's interesting that kind of where this stuff's going to go, really. But yeah, I do think, and let's be honest, as we've said before, there are so many other ways now that you can find out about good pubs and where to go. And as Nick keeps saying, that this industry is evolving all the time, isn't it? New people are arriving, other places are shutting, changing hands, especially now. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 months? It's great to see some pubs opening, but I'm still very conscious a lot of pubs I've driven past in the last couple of days that are still very, bolted up and closed up. And there's, as you mentioned last week, Bruce, no signs of life. And I think there's one there's one there that you showed us today that's still got all, I think it was the Bootham, wasn't it? All curtains across it and complete, looks like it's just mothballed for the time being. And again, just again, the guy I've listened to the podcast about Belgium saying the same, those epic little cafes in Belgium that just rely on, just sell beer, nothing else. How are they going to? Because they've had it as hard as us by all accounts in Belgium. They've had lockdown similar to us, and you do worry about kind of where the culture's going. We've talked about the positives about the booming, breweries and canning and bottle shops. That sounds to be going really well. Brewery taps, again, I'm getting inundated in my Facebook about breweries that are opening the taps. I'm planning maybe go up to Buxton next weekend. They have a tap in the town, but they can't open it because they haven't got a beer garden. So they just converted a car park in the industrial estate into a massive beer garden. And Cheshire Brew House have done the same as well. They said we will open a week late, but we're going to have this massive tap
my informant in the industry, he's quite surprised how many places are actually now invested and refurbishing. Places that haven't opened, but he's going in and putting whole new systems in. And he said these people are actually, having complete refurbishments done. So that's positive in a way.
Yeah. Some of them were there, though. I never heard this now, but they were saying that of course, quite a few people have been made redundant over the last 12 months, and pub co's and people are desperate for tenants. So, there's a bit of that going on. So people who know the industry and the fact that I'm getting out of it, I'm not making any money. And as always, you sting a few new people. You come in, we'll do a refurb for you. Oh, by the way, you'll be paying for it. We'll be whacking your rent up for the next six years to pay for it. And you've got to sell X number of barrels each week. So let's see what happens. So are you got any plans for the weekend, guys? Are you going to go try and get another drink out this weekend?
I might have a walk up Malton. The Stew and Oyster, they've managed to get some extra outdoor space. So quite nice there, the Malton Marketplace. 2 pubs up in Old Malton are both open. I haven't got up there yet, but intend to have a walk up there. That's the Old Malton Royal Oak and the Wentworth Arms. And then the only other pub I've seen open in town, which was quite surprised, is the Cross Keys. Because Cross Keys, out of all the pubs I can think of, have probably got the smallest little outdoor beer area. But I think that was because it's, I understand it's a guy who owns it freehold, based in Beverley, and he just put new managers in there just before lockdown. So I think he's probably said to him, look, you're not going to serve many people, but let's try and get it open again. So, maybe sit Malton Marketplace at Stew and Oyster, or have a walk up Old Malton.
Bruce, any plans?
We're intending to do a bit of a recce around the villages to see which Sam Smith pubs are open and closed, because they've all got very large beer gardens in the village. So I think it's Bolton, Percy, Tockwith, hopefully Appleton Roebuck's reopened, but I think some are missing managers, so I shall report back next week.
Okay. Well, I'm going to maybe try and get a beer tomorrow and maybe go to Mallard's. And then on Saturday, I'm planning to have my Sheffield tasting box. And I've also got a freezer full of recently deceased sheep, shall we say, that I need to get rid of. So we might be having a beery mutton. I think I'm going to tandoori, and I've got a new outdoor cooker to play with. So that's my plan. And I'm going to plan, I think, for next weekend, the bank holiday weekend. a little trip into the Peak District, I think. And I say I've got Buxton Brewery, Cheshire Brew House potentially, maybe get as far as Thornbridge, maybe, possibly, because I know they've opened their tap as well, or they've used in the car park outside. So that'll be a good fun. So we will catch up with you all at a week's time. Thanks for listening. Cheers, guys. I'm going to stop recording.
See you later.
Cheers.
Cheers. Right, very good.
Excellent.